JSA issue 10, written by Geoff Johns, Geoff Johns and David Goyer, forgive me, and art by Steven Sadowski. This is the Wildcat. I apologize. That's another Freudian slip there. Look, calling Wildcat Catman was bound to happen at some point, right?
I'm surprised it's taking you this long. Of course you do it in the one issue that's his.
It's bound to happen at one point. Look, it's not my fault there's two cat, themed characters that are men.
I mean, that's just men, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously there's Catwoman, which is why you jump to Catman first, but Catman's the anti-hero / villain character. Wildcat's the JSA character who was always kind of the hero boxer. Regardless. So this is him. With the cliffhanger last issue was the Injustice Society, the new Injustice Society showing up, led by Johnny Sorrow. And we have Wildcat in his towel, just out the bath, and he's looking up and he's all like dripping wet. And he asked it to run. So I appreciated the page with all the characters and the villains. I mean, we got most of them just from looking at them last issue. But it was just nice to have a nice set of, this is Johnny Sorrow, this is Count Vertigo, this is Icicle. I think Golden Wasp we probably didn't quite get. We probably just assumed that was either, what's his face, Wasp, the moth.
Oh, Killer Moth?
Killer Moth, yeah. I think we may have guessed him. I'm not sure. I can't remember what we said last issue. We got Tigress. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Blackbriar Thorn was maybe the one that we didn't get.
Oh, we definitely didn't get that.
Yeah. I wouldn't have known that. This is one of these things I love about comics, is that from the context of the narration, because of the way he talks about him,
this is an Alan Scott villain.
This is an Alan Scott, and I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to read some Alan Scott comics. I want to read about his adventures fighting against.
It's enough there that
Thorn.
It's a natural enough line that it doesn't feel like it's there just to tell us who it is. But it's okay. This is the level of threat that he is because he's an Alan Scott villain, and we know what Alan Scott's capable of. So it's establishing to us what sort of level of a villain we're dealing with.
It's building the story in the issue itself, on top of the fact that it's also letting us know where he comes from. And if you do want to go and see more Blackbriar Thorn stories, then you can go and check out some Alan Scott stuff. Potentially, I mean, I don't know if any of it's even accessible right now, because it's from a time period where not everything is actually digital, never mind in print.
DC Wiki is your friend.
Yes, but it's cool stuff all the same. So we kind of have, he runs off, Wildcat runs off, and he has this great thing where he sort of like comes out the garage on his bike. Vertigo, Wasp, and Tigress are hunting him, and he comes out in full costume. He's still got the cast on his arm, but he's in full costume. And
I really like the touch with the cast in the first couple of pages where you can see all the various people that have signed it.
Oh sure, yeah.
It's just a nice little touch.
What I like though is after that page, there's a moment where it's Geomancers walking through like one of the foyer areas, and you just have like this dark area underneath the stairs, and then the lights of the motorbike come on, and
I like that you hear the sound effect first.
You hear the sound effect first, but what I love about the visual is the lights kind of make cat eyes. If you look at them, they look like cat eyes. It's really nice touch. Really nice touch.
It is. And then he rides him through the window.
He rides him through the window, and he lands in the display with the bees from... What old villain was this?
Red Bees.
Red Bees.
Red Bees Living Beehive display.
There you go. I can't claim to know where that's from. The actual reason they're here, though, is because Johnny Sorrow wanted to collect the King of Tears vial that is in the vault, which is obviously the first appearance of King of Tears isn't until later in this book. So I know the name, but obviously when you read this for the first time, if you read this when it came out in 99, 2000, this would have been a, oh, what?
Yeah, it very clearly says King of Tears on the vial.
Yeah.
So it's making you aware of what it is for later. So it's not just going to be contextual later.
Yeah, but it's like an intrigue thing. It's like, oh, what's King of Tears and why does he want it?
Yeah, and Johnny Sorrow is a fairly powerful character, like in terms of threat level and just what he can do. So him being after it says a lot. Yeah.
The Wildcat takes on Icicle, which ends up in like the lab area, because of course they have a lab area, because why wouldn't they? And he gets zapped with lasers when he's on the operating table or whatever it is. And then it's the Blackbriar Thorn stuff, where this is where we hear, oh, it's an Alan Scott villain. And likewise, there's another one that's a J villain. Which one was it? I think you may have already said it. But like it establishes who some of these villains belong to. And I think because we're dealing with all these characters that come from the Golden Age, a lot of them anyway, like we don't know the Rogues Gallery as well as we do the Silver Age characters. You know, we don't know like Jay's Rogues Gallery versus Barry's. I mean, we all know Barry's Rogues Gallery really well.
Yeah.
So it's hard not to at this point. Yeah, but there's like a transport system, like a pneumatic tube, in the building. This is the other thing. We're getting kind of like a tour almost
of the JSA building.
Yeah, but yeah,
it does a lot actually in this issue in terms of establishing various villains, the tour, while also letting Wildcat shine. Yeah, well, this is a good thing. I think if you came to this book and you don't really know who a lot of these characters are, this is the issue that makes you kind of like Wildcat. You get a glimpse of his personality before now, but this is the issue where you're like, okay, he's this old timer who believes he's still got it in him, and he's trying to hold his own, and he's the sort of guy. He's definitely, this is very much the John McClane way of one of these characters, because this is very Die Hard-esque, the way he's sort of sneaking around the building, taking them on one by one. It doesn't have the sneaking element quite as much because it is just kind of like, okay, one by one he's in these fights. And let's be honest, Wildcat doesn't have that subtlety in him.
No. But he throws Blackbriar Thorn down the tube, and he's just like a pile of twigs and toothpicks.
Yes.
Notable for later. Tigress is down there, and Wildcat throws down a statue that happens to be next to the tube. Great panel here actually, because when he jumps down and he's just in like all silhouette, and you see the eyes like as he's standing on top of the rubble,
crouching, I would say. But
looking at Tigress. And he does happen to drop in the narration that he may have had some experience with the original Tigress.
Yep.
Artemis's mother, important. But they end up in the gym area where there's a boxing ring, which is notable because he essentially goes because at first he thinks that this Golden Wasp, because he doesn't really know Golden Wasp, and this is the one that was Jay's villain.
Killer Wasp.
Killer Wasp.
Well, I mean, in the narration here, Wildcat refers to him as Killer Wasp, so I'm assuming. So.
I'm pretty sure I'm right, because I'm pretty sure it was Golden Wasp on the first page, and when it
that's interesting. Then I wonder if that's Wildcat getting it wrong and just not knowing enough about this guy and be like, who cares, or if there was a genuine mistake.
Yeah, well, I'm actually going to go back and check now. But
I just did. You're right. It does say Golden Wasp.
Right. Good. Once again.
Well, I mean, that's intriguing that it's highlighted that there, because, I mean, for us, is a fairly forgettable character, and that we don't really know him anyway. And I'm assuming now that this means that Wildcat doesn't either, really, because he actually, it says, Killer Wasp, like, his style reminds me of someone else. So I guess even to him, he's like, I don't really know much about this guy. Is what that's supposed to be telling us.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of clear afterwards anyway, because he assumes that his wings will be fake, but then he's surprised when they turn out to be real, that he's actually some kind of mutant, rather than someone who's dressed up in the theme of a wasp. But he does mention here that, he's not Jay, he can't just dodge his lightning bolts forever, because he can fire lightning bolts, this dude, for the record. And so that tells us this is a Jay villain. Again, really fun little bit of mythology there that's kind of setting us up. But he goads him into a fist fight. He's like, you won't come down here and fight me like a man. And the guy kind of like, Wasp takes off his like top basically, and he's like, he does look kind of, he looks like a mutant. He looks like well, I guess metahuman is more correct because we're in DC, but in the sense that he's actually more of a mutant Wasp. I'm not thinking the same way that we use mutant in Marvel, or in the same way that we use a meta-human in DC. I'm thinking more like Jeff Goldblum went into the transporter,
the fly,
and came out mutated with a fly.
That's a pretty accurate description, I would say.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, I wouldn't be too surprised if that was some variation of his origin.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Given the time period he's from.
Well, I mean, he's a J villain, so there's a good chance he existed before even the original Fly movie.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, he's in that period where it could have been a J villain that came after that.
It could have been, because the original Fly was in the 50s, for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about here. The Vincent Price movie was in the 50s. But of course, this is his mistake, because Wildcat's a boxer, and there's a nice little touch here where he says something like, you think you're a winner, And he's like, no, I don't think so. And the panel, again, it feels like a camera move because of the pacing of it, but it goes past his shoulder and shows this championship belt in a case behind him. And then you get the full page spread of him knocking out Wasp. But of course, the art changes so that he's in a boxing ring. Purely a visual thing. Now, we know there's actually a boxing ring in the gym, but it kind of works in the way that it doesn't even need to be there. It's just like a visual thing where, no, he's in his boxing mode right now. He's throwing his knockout punch like he did back in the day.
It works because they are physically in the boxing ring anyway, and they have been for pages at this point.
But notably,
I think it's the way that the shot changes, the colouring pops.
Well, it takes away everything else, though. It's just the boxing ring.
Yeah, I mean, but even the colours of the ropes on the ring are brighter than they were. It really emphasises it. It's a great touch.
Yeah, but then Johnny also says, I got what we came for, so we can all leave now. So everyone just kind of zaps out. And he's, Wildcat's left scratching his head. So he doesn't really accomplish a whole lot, which is the interesting thing. But we've got this new super villain team, and this is our big introduction to all of them. It lets Wildcat shine, which is wonderful. It gives him this shoe to himself, where we all get to know who he is. We get to know these villains. And then we get this great joke ending where the JSA get back from their mission from the previous few issues, and they're like, what the hell happened? There's a hurricane came through here. What's going on, Ted? And he's like, Johnny Sorrow showed up, and, unfortunately, though, they all vanished before I could finish reading them and write the riot act. And he's like, well, all but one, as he picks his tooth with a toothpick. This is one of those little endings where I always remember this. No matter how much I forgot of all the issues of this I read, I always remember the ending of this issue of him with the toothpick. It's
super memorable. And I think the moment I forget that I actually love, because it in context here, is just the Power 4 is Courtney looking at the pile of all the wood shavings and picking up a full hand as he's in, and then it cuts to him, with the toothpick bit. And it's just enough that was a hand. It makes it so much better.
And I don't know what the rules are with Blackbriar is. I don't know if he can still come back. If this is just bits of wood that he's left behind. Is it like Groot where he's regrown elsewhere?
I think it's possible. Just again, entirely on context of in this issue, he makes a point of saying, I've returned from hell, and it'd be nice to see Alan, if he was here.
That was the interesting thing, is in the narration when Ted's talking about him, he mentions that Thorne claims that he was around for the building of Stonehenge. And I'm like, that's kind of interesting. I guess it's not that different from Vandal Savage being thousands of years old, but I don't know, that's specifically quite interesting. You've got this Groot type villain who's been around, at least it claims to be around that long. So, no. Honestly, the issue, does it advance a whole lot of plot? It essentially teases one thing with the King of Tears, but it's introducing this new team of villains. It lets one of our heroes, gives them a chance to shine and really get to know them, really get to know a lot of who these villains are, and it's just a really fun, engaging issue that, I have very little to complain or critique.
It's kind of a wonderful ball issue, right?
And then you have the art, which the art overall quality is pretty good, but I think the sequential art is the best thing about it. I think the way it flows in some of those action sequences as he's fighting various things, whether it's on the motorbike and the way it builds up as he's coming out, or it's the sequential of going down the tube and the statue, and then him, all the stuff feels like it flows exceptionally well. The boxing matches in particular sticks out.
Yeah, and it does a lot for Wildcat's character, because again, I think a lot of people came into this book not knowing necessarily who all of these were, myself included the first time I read it. And he's kind of, in many ways, he has to answer that Batman question of, okay, well, he's got no powers on this team, so why is he here for a lot of the time? Why was he always a member without powers? And it's not like the gadgets or the smarts like Batman, obviously, but just he holds his own against this entire team. And you go, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah. If I can think of a complaint, it's actually just something that goes against something else it does, and that's that there's the one page or the 2 pages in the middle where it's Johnny Sorrow going into the vault to get the King of Tears is bathed in red. The idea being that there's a red light in the vault, right? So it's just bathed in red. And it's this thing that's telling you that this is the most important page in the whole issue, because this is the thing that's teasing what's to come. This is the actual dangerous thing that's happening. that's going to have consequences. And my complaint is not that. I love that. That's a great idea. The complaint is that the first page where he's fighting Icicle, there's also a red light that bathes everything in red light for a page, and I felt like that almost like, no, you shouldn't have done that.
I think it hurts particularly more because that's the very next page.
Yeah. So I would, that if I was going to critique something, say something that makes it not perfect, it would be, I would not have had that extra page in red.
I agree. Yeah. The only other thing I would say is, okay, he's wearing a cast on his arm. It's clearly bad, but he's fine. He's throwing punches with that arm the whole issue. I think it would be maybe more interesting if show that he is handicapped. He is an arm down. He can't properly punch with that hand. Maybe something I think would have elevated it even more.
Yeah. I actually, Joe, I think that is. I think that's actually a victim of the fact that he had so many characters to go through. I think if you'd like maybe have the number of characters he had to fight through, you could have spent more time of him like realizing he had a handicap in each fight and how he has to get around it with each particular villain. But
honestly, the only one I really mind it in is the boxing match section where, okay, no, he's a champion boxer. Don't get me wrong, we know this, and this guy's better than he expected, but he's handicapped, and I don't think it emphasizes the handicap at all, and that is a little disappointing, I guess.
No. Or even use it to his advantage. A cast can be pretty hard if you hit someone in the head with it. Like,
I bet it can, yeah.
So there's potential there, but despite those fairly minor complaints, it's a pretty standout issue that, in a run that's already felt like it's had some really great issues, it stands out so far. So
this is one of my all-time memorable issues.
Yeah, what are you giving it?
I'm giving it a 9. I really love this issue.
You keep taking the ratings I'm going to pick, but all right, fine.
Well, you can go first if you want.
I mean, I can, but for the record, though, almost every, with the exception of one where I was sort of humming and hawing after it, I'd already kind of had my number in my head before you said it. I think is Wonder Woman the only book we haven't agreed on so far? Yeah, that's true. Oh, that's true. Yes, I said that we'd agreed on them all. That's obviously not true because Wonder Woman, but other than Wonder Woman, yes. So there you go. That is JSA issue 10.